Welcome to In Good Company, where relationships drive results, with your host, Lisa Kilray. In each episode, we explore how great leaders build trust, inspire teams, and turn meaningful connections into real success.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kilray, host of In Good Company, where relationships drive results. Today's episode is sponsored by WSI. At WSI, we help manufacturers and B2B distributors build the strategic foundation they need for AI-driven growth. Our work spans digital strategy, search visibility, and multi-channel programs designed to build measurable results. To learn more, visit www.wsi-manufacturing-marketing.com. In industrial markets, innovation is often measured by performance, visibility, reliability, and efficiency. Behind every product and every advancement, there are teams working closely with customers, partners, and each other to solve the world challenges. Those relationships often play a critical role in how new solutions are developed, refined, and successfully brought to market. Today, I'm fortunate to be joined by Scott Rolston. Scott is President of Stucchi USA. Thank you for joining us today, Scott.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's really great to have you. So just to give listeners a little bit of context, as I mentioned, you're the President of Stucchi USA. And Stucchi is a leading manufacturer of hydraulic quick disconnect couplings, serving various industries like construction, ag, industrial, and oil and gas. You bring extensive leadership experience in fluid power and industrial markets with a focus on driving growth, operational excellence, and customer-focused innovation. And in your role, as I understand it, you lead Stucchi USA's strategic direction, sales, ops, working closely with OEMs, distributors, and end users to deliver reliable, high-performance solutions. Would you say that is an act? Yes, it is. But you're a busy guy. So we truly appreciate you having you here today. So just to start off, can you share a bit about your role today and what you are most focused on at Stucchi?
Sure. If I give a sort of a hierarchy overview, so today I'm leading the U.S. business for Stucchi, but my journey in fluid connectors goes back more than 30 years. I entered the fluid power industry right out of college. Got involved with a manufacturing rep agency in 93, and by 1995, I was fully immersed in quick release couplings. So we had represented a company back then by the name of Perfecting Couplings. So they were an innovator in quick release couplings going back to the 60s and 70s. And then from there, I got exposure to another manufacturer by the name of Tomco Products. So early on, this sort of formed my foundation for what I do today, but it gave me a deep appreciation for both the engineering behind the products and the realities of how they're used in the field, going out, making joint sales calls, and really building the foundation of my career off of working in the field and sales. So those experiences shaped how I think about this business. Quick release couplings often look simple, but when you see how they behave under the application factors of pressure, vibration, contamination, and then operator use, you realize they play a much bigger role in safety, other business drivers such as productivity, efficiency, uptime, that overall system performance that people often don't give the product credit for. So we're kind of that Achilles heel within a broader system. So that's what's formed my foundation and some of my, I guess, visions for the business. But when we started Stucchi here in the U.S., we also were essentially an organic startup. We didn't inherit any large customer base or predefined strategy. We built everything from the market presence to relationships. It was literally one conversation at a time. From the very beginning, our questions started not just with how do we sell couplers, but we were really focused on where can we deliver real value in terms of business drivers. So that value mindset has stayed with the company. It's part of our culture. It's the core of how we operate, from inside sales to outside sales to operations. We spend a lot of time in the field still talking with customers, talking with distributors, directly with OEMs. We try and understand their applications, learn where existing products may fall short, and then in many cases where the customers weren't looking for something radically new, they're just looking for something that works better, lasts longer, and has a day-to-day impact on business drivers such as safety or ease of operator use. That's where we maintain our focus. So from a leadership perspective, my role has always been about creating that alignment between customers, our engineering team, our sales team, and then our channel partners that integrate with our customers. So when we're innovating something or creating a new product, it doesn't happen in isolation. We're taking that 360-degree perspective, and that only happens when you listen well, and then you translate that into those real-world problems getting translated into technical requirements, and then how do we execute that in a way that makes sense commercially and operationally for all parties.
Right, right. That's a lot right there. So thank you for the background.
I kind of a rant, but we're pretty passionate about what we do. So taking it back to where my focus is, it's really threefold. It continues on focusing on strengthening customer relationships, building out those partnerships, and making sure that we stay connected to the applications, because that's where the real challenge is. So operationally, we have to feed the supply chain, but are we solving problems also at an application level, not just from a channel level? So we're solving problems on various levels throughout the supply chain.
Right. So I imagine hydraulic couplers can be a very competitive and sometimes commoditized space. How do you think about differentiation in that kind of market? And what are you seeing right now in terms of customer expectations or shifts in demand?
Sure. So hydraulic quick release couplings absolutely can be seen as a commodity. What we try and do is reset that perspective based on business drivers. So we try to penetrate the surface level of an application, and that requires us to differentiate ourselves. And that's what we consider a differentiator, where we learn more about the application, we understand the intimate details of performance, safety, reliability over a period of time. That understanding of the variables then allows us to apply the proper product within that process application or the technical requirements such as pressure, vibration, connection frequency. How are those parts integrating within the customer's systems and processes, and what impact are we having, both positive and negative, and applying the product or adaptations of product accordingly. There's contamination risks, there's operational and operator behavior. So it's not just the performance of the product, it's how does the product perform within all of those variables that allows us to separate ourselves and differentiate ourselves from being fully commoditized. Of course, it is a commodity. There's no denying that, but those are the ways that we really try and intimately understand the details that allow us to say, you know what, in your situation, in your application, something different may allow you to achieve your business objectives with our product versus just trying to solve a product issue, because many times it goes beyond a product issue.
Right. So I know that you serve quite a few different verticals, and I imagine you didn't serve all of them right away. Are there any unique differences in how your product and your solutions help those different verticals, or are they generally the same themes across verticals?
There are differences in adoption by the different verticals. So there's mega trends and how quickly different verticals within markets adopt those mega trends. Customers today are expecting a lot more than just a component that connects and disconnects. They're operating environments where safety may be a business driver, requiring a higher machine requirement that's more complex. Other industries are more focused on downtimes. All companies are focused on downtime, but what is that material impact in one industry versus another? So it's more about those mega trends, those business drivers, and where their focus is. We can look at the same application within two industries that are 90% the same, but maybe one customer's focused higher on safety requirements because of a regulatory environment, and the other one is more focused on productivity within the same hydraulic schematic. So we focus, again, on those drivers, but we're seeing a lot of shift today because of shortages and headcount and the challenges related to labor. If I were to isolate on one, it's safety. As equipment becomes more powerful and regulations more stringent, customers want components that reduce risk and that exposure of an accident occurring on a work site or within a plant facility. Less leakage because, again, that exposure to safety, slips, trips, and falls. And they're really looking to protect operators who interface with parts. So I would say safety isn't nice to have anymore. It's become an expectation. So that's a big common denominator that we're seeing. And then that combined with productivity pressure, lower headcounts, but still maintaining those same levels of productivity applies a lot of pressure in any industry and any vertical market. And then how does that translate to our product? They're needing faster connections, easier operations, solutions that don't require special tools or extensive training. The quick release coupler has to be applying an ease of use, a reduction in prone to error. Because of that impact on productivity, the customers are far less tolerant of something that requires an extra effort.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a company, an industry, or a situation where safety and productivity aren't important. So I could see where those would be the themes that are consistent across the board.
And that's moving away from the upfront price argument. And that's where I say, yes, we're a commodity, but these mega trends are impacting the upfront cost to more of a total cost of ownership discussion. The customers are more sophisticated looking at their business drivers. Foremen may have KPIs today where they didn't have KPIs before. So they're focused on these business drivers. And so, again, how does that impact daily operations? And then how does that filter down to our product interfacing with them? So they're looking at factors of how long will this product last? How often will it need maintenance? How readily available are the replacement parts? What happens if it fails in the field? So again, when we talked about commoditization, we're also looking at a higher quality solution that reduces downtime and service calls. So the discussion has changed quite a bit. Or if it hasn't, we're trying to trigger those discussions because, again, all of those mega trends, if they're not in front of the customer today, they will work its way down to those particular markets or that individual customer who hasn't quite adapted to the new environment and where they need to be.
Right. I get it. So one of the things I was really interested in talking to you about in my research about Stucchi and some of your initiatives is that you're in the process of introducing a new product called VTi Lock. Can you explain what it is and the problem it is designed to solve?
Sure. The VTi Lock was developed to address a very real problem we see on job sites. So those factors within applications that I mentioned earlier are more extreme in specific applications. So an unintentional loosening and disconnection of a hydraulic quick coupler, premature wear that leads to a catastrophic failure in higher pressure, high vibration applications. So as machines become more powerful, traditional coupling designs are being pushed beyond their original intent to handle. And it's not just an inconvenience when a hydraulic connection fails. It means downtime, it means safety hazards, significant maintenance costs. So the Rock Lock was engineered specifically to improve reliability in those demanding environments where uptime really matters the most. So from a design perspective, at its core, the VTi Lock is a screw to connect quick release coupling. So the valving is flat face. So we're checking some boxes. Flat face versus a poppet valve, you're eliminating leakage and spillage on a job site. Screw to connect is a mechanical interface, allows to relieve some of that premature wear that a traditional ball and latch design can be impacted by these high vibration, high torsion applications. And then the third feature built into this is an automatic locking sleeve. And so we've got these three core factors: screw to connect, flat face, and automatic locking sleeve. But it's not just those individual features, it's how it works together that really changes the performance on the job site with this product.
Okay, awesome. I love the detail. Can you kind of explain or walk through a typical use case example of one of these high demand situations where the VTi Lock would be needed, and how it prevented issues or improved safety or improved productivity or whatever the end benefit was in that particular scenario?
Just taking the most basic high impact, if you look at a typical mobile piece of mobile hydraulic construction equipment, like an excavator, or an excavator that's adapted to do drilling. But any of these applications that have higher working pressures, higher flow requirements, vibration has an impact in movement. But this is very common in many pieces of construction equipment, let's say an excavator. So these machines are running harder, they're running for longer hours, often interfacing with a work tool, so they're changing the tool out. They've got limited maintenance windows. So with those applications, there can be premature wear. The operator is interfacing with the connector. Having a catastrophic failure will literally shut down a job site. And we've seen this repeatedly with our exposure to customers and that interface through our channels, calling directly on end users. We've seen job sites that literally are shut down over a quick release coupling that failed on the job site. It might be a demolition site. Well, now your main demolition piece of equipment, the excavator with a hammer on there, is no longer running. You've just lost all that productivity. There's real world money at stake. Unscheduled downtime means you may not meet deadlines. There may be within the contract deadlines, if you don't meet these thresholds, there's chargebacks, or there may be bonuses on the back end of the project where now you're not getting done early and you lose a bonus that's possibly tied. So it's on both ends where there could be chargebacks or lost revenue in the form of expected bonuses because you normally are able to execute ahead of schedule and you built that into the contract and that revenue's lost. So there's a number of factors that this can impact.
Well, I mean, that's a great example, and it kind of puts in perspective why you shouldn't be focused on the price because it can backfire significantly.
Sure, and price does matter, and we recognize pricing elasticity. It can't be a golden VTi Lock. We feel like the product is priced fairly within the amount of engineering and technical features that are built into it. It falls in line with some of our other product families that solve specialty problems. But to reinforce your point, we're really focused on the big picture business drivers with this product. Right. And we really believe it will solve and or eliminate some of those catastrophic issues that can happen on a job site and shut down part of their production, because ultimately a job site is a production site.
Yeah.
They're working like an orchestra, and everything is integrated in sequence, and things have to happen in a certain sequence. Otherwise, you can't move on to the next portion of the job.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all about the productivity, but I can imagine if you're in a difficult terrain, a shutdown of the equipment could be extremely unsafe for the operator. So that's
Absolutely.
not a good that's not a good thing either. So bringing a product like this to market typically involves a lot of collaboration. Can you talk about the role customers, partners, or internal teams played in shaping VT Rotlock?
Yeah, absolutely. So the VT Rotlock really came out of conversations with customers, distributors, our internal teams. Customer feedback helped validate the problems. So I refer to that as, firing bullets versus cannonballs. You can't make an assumption that that first feedback loop is what you should put all of your resources towards. So we did a lot of customer feedback loops with including distributors who may have gotten secondary and third feedbacks, and really peeling back those layers of the onion. So we took that from the application users and incorporated those details into the engineering of the product. And then what we're trying to do is position that to support those market applications.
Okay.
So I could give you some customer specifics, conversations, real world stories
Yeah,
that I just sort of shared with job site
that'd be awesome.
shutdowns. But, one on one, a good example is being on job sites where it was construction equipment, high reach demolition applications, and the high flow auxiliary lines on excavators having premature failures and leakage. So even just the leakage could cause a job site to be shut down depending on what the environmental impact is. Are they working on a bridge? The oil leaks into a river. Now they literally have to move a barge to the shore to make this repair and then move it back to the proper positioning within the bridge work site. So when we see those things and we've been exposed to those real world applications, that causes us to step back and look at the issue differently. Was it an improper installation? In this instance, it wasn't. It was just the reality of how the equipment was being used, that vibration, the rotation, the pressure, the long duty cycles. All of that was acting on a coupler in a way that was beyond its intended design use. That level of mechanical stress exceeded the design of the product. So taking those real world examples, saying, okay, we've got to design something that's at another level to handle what the real applications are today as a use case. And that's not an uncommon use case.
Okay. So all good things take time to come to fruition. I'm just curious, how long was the process from the initial idea and void that was identified to, now, which is being very close to being able to bring this to market?
Engineers are always toying with ideas. Salespeople are always bouncing ideas. I would say it's been, at least from a concept standpoint, 5 years.
Okay.
We had some initial revision, the baseline product, probably 3 years ago, and then we've done several revisions as you go through a robust testing process and finding ways to combine the actual production of a product versus the design of a product, because those are two separate factors. I can design a solution, but then can I scale the production of it? And do you have to then go back and make adaptations to meet the design use case while effectively and efficiently producing those parts at scale? So we've gone through several renditions of the product again over the last 3 years to finally get it to its final design and now production phase. We've moved through prototypes into production now.
Okay, awesome. So throughout your career, moving beyond VTi Lock, throughout your career, you've had relationships influence your ability to grow the business and bring new solutions to the market. What do you think separates strong long-term partnerships from more transactional ones in the industry?
Well, at a baseline, relationships have been central to everything that I've done or we do as a team. That trust allows for these open dialogues that allowed us to get those feedback loops. So I think that's one way strong partnerships differentiate themselves from transactional ones. Strong relationships always make it easier to take smart risks and bring meaningful innovation to the market. Those strong partnerships build on shared goals. So I think that's another separation between transactional relationships and actual partnerships. There's a level of shared goals. There's a level of transparency. There's got to be long-term thinking. It's got to go beyond what's happening this month to what are we going to do next year. Transactional relationships focus on price and availability, which absolutely are important, but partnerships focus on solving problems together over a longer period of time.
Right, absolutely. And that's a perfect segue. This has been an awesome conversation, especially around how innovation like VTi Lock comes to life through both technical expertise and strong collaboration. Before we wrap up, where is the best place for listeners to learn more about Stucchi or to connect with you or your team?
I would say the best place to start is our website. We're always open to direct conversations as well. The phone number is listed there, whether it's our sales team, our distributors, our engineers. We are highly driven with our sales team engaging, so by phone rather than just by email, so we can get full context. Our workflow is to try and have a conversation, not just answer an email. So it starts with the website because there's the sales email there, but that should trigger a phone call, and we want to be accessible and helpful.
Okay. And then how about finding you? Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn, but that's a trick question because I assume they would just look up my name to find me. But yes, I am on LinkedIn.
So Rolston, Rolston. That
Yes.
might trip them up and not be able to find you very well if they spell it wrong. So before we officially wrap up, I always like to end with a question on reflection. Given the shows about relationships and them driving results, is there a person in your life that has been instrumental? It could be very early on in your career, it could be later on, that has really guided you and been influential in how you've been successful and achieved results?
I wouldn't say it's one individual. I was very fortunate to get into the industry right out of college in my early 20s. So I was interfacing with a peer group in their 40s and 50s that were either upper management, sales managers, VPs of sales, or owner-operators of manufacturers. Mm-hmm. So that mentorship period for at least 7, 8, 9 years is really the foundation of everything. Learning from the professionals, learning from those with an enormous amount of tribal knowledge as the methodology versus today. We do use a lot of data to make decisions, but that old school methodology of absorbing and knowing had a big influence. So I could name a half dozen mentor of individuals that I consider mentors that were all sales managers and owner operators. And I still say hi to them today at every trade show. I appreciate the time I had with them.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a tight industry, no matter how big the company or how big or how small it is, I would imagine.
Yeah, so it is. It's like a high school reunion at every big show.
Well, that sounds fun, I think. So if there's one takeaway from today's conversation, it's this: the best industrial solutions are not developed in isolation. They're built through real-world insight, collaboration, and strong relationships across the entire value chain. Scott, thank you for joining us today. And to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to being in good company with you again next time.
Great.
Thank
you, Lisa.
Thanks for listening to In Good Company. where relationships drive results, with Lisa Kilray. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay connected and keep building relationships that drive results.